Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Joining me on the phones right now, the Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate, Congressman Beto O'Rourke, who is going from town hall to town hall, Texas City to Texas City. Congressman, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me on. I'm driving with my wife, Amy. We just left a town hall in Seminole and are going to be in Lubbock for a town hall that starts at 11.
Yeah.
So grateful that you give us a chance to call in on the drive up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you've been busy. You've been traveling the state. You've hit every county in the state of Texas, and you're doing another swing through some different cities right now, doing a town hall. Let me ask you this: what is one or two of the biggest topics or the most asked questions you get? And especially right now, I'm sure they change from week to week, month to month. But what are you getting right now? What are one or two of the biggest issues you're being asked about at these town halls?
You know, as you can imagine, it'll vary from town hall to town hall. So just now, met a gentleman in Seminole who told me that he's growing pecans and is really concerned about tariffs that are going to make it harder for him to find markets around the world. Used to be a cotton grower, and met another cotton grower there who shared some of the challenges that he and his family face right now, as do farmers who've seen, a net decrease in their incomes of almost 50% over the last 3 years. But across Texas, perhaps the two biggest issues are, one, people who want to make sure that they're well enough to be able to contribute to their full potential. And so we're the least insured state in the country. We're a state that chose not to expand Medicaid. Unfortunately, we have millions of our fellow Texans who can't see a doctor or afford medication or get that surgery that could literally save their lives. And it's across the board. In Houston, or when I'm talking to farmers in Julia, that same issue comes up. The other, if I had to pick two, Chad, is just the demand for decency and the ability to have important, sometimes passionate conversations, but still see each other as Texans and Americans and human beings, and to quit being so tribal and polarized and divided. And that's, that issue transcends partisanship or geography or any other small difference. Folks want us to figure it out and get to work. And so those are two issues that are pretty consistent across the board, across the state.
Interesting. Let's go back to some of the things that you're hearing out here, and it's ag related and tariff related. I want to start off with the farm bill, and I'm sure you've been asked out here your views on a farm bill and also work requirements, because it's all bundled up in that one piece of legislation. Right now, the House and the Senate, they're trying to work out an agreement on the farm bill and work requirements for those who are on SNAP. Where do you come down on that? Should there be work requirements or not?
I don't think there should be. Well, let me say this. I don't think we need to add additional work requirements on top of those that already exist. As you probably know, the House version of the Farm Bill, which is otherwise, I think, a really good piece of legislation, will cut $23 billion from the SNAP nutrition program. It will affect 125,000 of our fellow Texans and make it that much harder for them and their families to get the calories and the nutrition they need to be at their best. And my hat's off to Chairman Conaway, who I think did a wonderful job of looking out for farmers and ranchers, but specifically producers here in Texas. And I'm grateful for his work. I'm very confident that the far more bipartisan, ultimately, Senate bill that I think passed something like 83-11, and the House bill that passed along party line votes, that a conference report can come out of those two bills that we can support, because we do need a farm bill. And you're right, Chad, I hear that over and over again everywhere that I am, especially in West Texas, the Panhandle, and in North Texas. And I'm committed to trying to make sure that we get one.
Let's talk about tariffs. I had on the show last week, I had your opponent on the show, and also had Senator Cornyn on the show. Both are worried about tariffs and where they're leading right now, but also came out, both of them thought it was a mistake to redirect $12 billion to farmers and to the ag community. Do you agree with that or disagree?
It's tough because as long as the president's going to pursue this policy of tariffs and potentially entering our country into trade wars, we need to be there for the farmers and ranchers and producers who are affected. And so as a stopgap measure, I want to make sure that we're covering those who are already scraping by and having a tough time making ends meet. But I agree with our two senators on this one. This is a crazy policy, especially for Texas. Not only do we feed and clothe ourselves, we feed and clothe the world out of West Texas, including the largest cotton patch on the planet. And these trade wars compromise our ability to sell to those markets around the world. And here's what a cotton farmer just told me right now in Seminole. He said, listen, so far the tariffs really have not hurt us. They could, and we're concerned about it. But what he said I'm most afraid of is beyond the temporary hit that we could take, those markets that we're selling into, they're going to find new places to buy cotton from. And that long term is going to undermine what we're trying to do, what the West Texas economy is driven by, and what we support the national economy with throughout almost every state in the union. So I think that's the real long-term threat of the president's policies. And what it's going to take is all of us coming together, Republicans and Democrats, to provide an alternative that's based on the experiences that we're hearing from these farmers and ranchers. And what they're telling us loud and clear is we don't want tariffs and we don't want a trade war.
Visiting with Congressman Beto O'Rourke, Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate. I noticed there are a lot of Democratic candidates who are running and talking about Medicare for all. And I saw on your Facebook page there was a post last year, and I'm sure you've talked more about it, about Medicare for all. Is that still something you support?
I support universal, high-quality, and guaranteed health care for everyone. And let me explain the guaranteed part of that. We all learned about the tragic outcome of a teacher in Weatherford, Texas, who had health care but didn't have guaranteed health care. When she had the flu, her copay on her flu medication was $119 that she didn't have in the checking account at the time, didn't get it, and died as a consequence. Yes, it's going to cost us something to ensure that teacher and everyone in our state is able to get the medication or see that doctor or take their child to the therapist that they need to be at their best. But it's a heck of a lot less expensive than the way that we pay and fail to pay for health care in Texas today, where the largest provider of mental health care services is the county jail system. Or when I was visiting with wheat growers in Tulia, young couple told me their greatest anxiety was not being able to find health care. And one half of that young couple, the wife, was going to have to drive an hour in each direction to find a job that will allow her to have health care, when really where she wants to be is on that farm, working with her husband, raising their family. Universal health care takes care of those farmers and families and teachers and people who just want to contribute to their best. And it's a lot less expensive than paying for it in the county jail or at the ER or in the lives lost and the productivity unrealized when people are not well enough to be able to contribute to their full potential.
Well, let me ask you this. How do you pay for it? There was a study that came out yesterday that Medicare for all, if we go with that type of plan, or health care for all, would cost roughly $32.6 trillion. How do you pay for that?
I'm open to working with anyone, anywhere, anytime, to find out how we get to universal health care. And necessarily, I believe that will mean working with Republicans and compromising where we must to get to something that may not be perfect, but is a lot better than what we have today. If we could, Chad, begin, for example, with expanding Medicaid, especially when the federal government might still be willing to pay the majority of the cost of expansion, when we could introduce Medicare as at least an option on the public exchanges where communities are underserved because there may only be one insurance provider competing for their business. Those might be initial steps that are bipartisan that we could take together and ultimately get to a solution that provides universal health care for everyone. In Lubbock, not too long ago, I got to go to a place that you may have been to. It's called Paul's Project on Grace Campus, run by two amazing people in Lubbock who take care of more than 80 homeless people at a time. And they said the vast majority of those that they are caring for have a medical condition connected to their homelessness, could no longer afford the premiums, or were so disabled by a disease or an illness that they could no longer work. We're going to be able to get a lot more productivity, a lot more economic growth, a lot more taxes paid because people are able to work and shoulder their fair share of the burden when everyone is well enough to do so. So I remain as open as possible to working with anyone, anywhere, to make sure that we get this done.
Visiting with Congressman Beto O'Rourke yesterday, your opponent, Senator Cruz, accused you of taking PAC money. You've said numerous times that you're not accepting PAC money. His campaign came out yesterday and said that you do accept PAC money from a group, a PAC called J Street. Would you like to address that?
Would be happy to. Thanks for asking. The best way to resolve this question that the senator has raised is to go to the Federal Elections Commission website and look at every FEC report that I have filed as a candidate for the House of Representatives and now as a candidate for the United States Senate. And what you will see on the line that asks the amount of contributions from political action committees is zero. And it's been zero every single quarter that we report. It'll be zero when we report the next quarter. So though there are members of J Street who have contributed to this campaign, they have contributed as individuals. Their names appear individually with the amount that they donated on our FEC report. So I'm grateful for everyone's contribution. The fact that in the last 3 months, we raised $10.4 million from 215,714 individuals, the vast majority from Texas. The average contribution, $33. This is everyone stepping up and proving that we are a match to corporate interests, special interests, to political action committees. It's the people of Texas getting our democracy back.
And I want to ask you, I've got a couple more questions, and hopefully I can get to them. When it comes to the border issue and the separation of families, you've been pretty vocal about that. You've also said that you don't want to abolish ICE. When it comes to the president's zero-tolerance immigration policy, what alternative is there, in your opinion?
A couple of alternatives. For example, when families have come to this country seeking asylum, fleeing the deadliest, the most violent, most brutal places on the planet right now, doing what any human would do, certainly what I would do in the same situation, get my kids to safety and a better place. Instead of keeping those families in jail, in detention, or taking that child from the mother who risked everything, including her life, to bring that child to safety, there are programs like the Family Case Management Program. And you can read the studies on this program when the government used it and helped those families ensure that they understood the laws in our country that they had to follow, their appointment with a federal immigration judge, and their accountability and acceptance of whatever that judge ruled. We saw a near 99% compliance rate. In other words, people were apprehended, released into the community, were monitored through this family case management program, and showed up back to court 99% of the time. That's a pretty good efficacy rate for a federal program. So that's one alternative. The other, of course, is that we as a country, and we especially in Texas, the most diverse state in the country, Republicans and Democrats take the lead in rewriting our immigration laws so that they reflect the needs that we have. In Seminole, you have hundreds, if not thousands, of migrant laborers working on those farms. As I may have told you last time we met, in Roscoe, I went to a cotton gin. All 24 of those jobs there are worked by migrants. Not a single person born in Sweetwater or Roscoe or anywhere in West Texas is willing to do that work for whatever reason. Thank God there are some who will, because our communities and our economy are literally driven by them. Let's make sure our immigration laws match that economic value and need that we have. And I know from talking to Republicans and Democrats that we we can find common ground on this issue, and I'd love for us to be able to do that.
Congressman, I got about a minute and a half, or about 2 minutes here for this answer. And this is about how you win votes in Texas. And there are many who say you have to get the Democratic Party in the middle. Nationally, we see groups like the Democratic Socialists of America who have popped up and been more vocal, like with the win of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Do you think that groups like the DSA are good for the Democratic Party and good for your candidacy moving forward?
Listen, I just think any competition of ideas, and you are the example of that to me. You have a conservative radio show, and you're inviting a progressive Democrat on to debate the issues and discuss the ideas, and we can do it civilly and in a decent way for one another. So I invite all comers from all political stripes and persuasions to get out there and share their ideas. And then this is the genius of America, 242 years in. This experiment that we can choose our own direction, our own representatives, and do so with a vigorous debate of ideas and proposals, and still do so civilly. So, let's have everyone share their ideas, and then let's allow the voters to choose. That's what I'm doing by going to all 254 counties of Texas and not accepting any help from corporations or PACs or special interests. It's just the people. And here we are, our 7th visit to Lubbock, our 6th town hall in that community. Looking forward to what people are going to have to say when we get a chance to see them in a little bit at the Cactus at 11 a.m.
Yeah,
so
you've got 8.
For having me on the show.
You've got 8 minutes, so we'll let you get going. Congressman, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
That's Congressman Beto O'Rourke on the Chad Hasty Show.